the questions, let me tell you few points on this. You have started most of you have started your preparation a month back. So you may get this doubt, why do we need to write answers now? We have not finished, not even at 3 topics. Why do we need to write answers, mains answers? That's the question. If you want to clear in the first attempt, then write. If you want to clear, because it takes time to improve on our answers, mains answer especially. So we'll be having how many months for our prelims next year? Let's say 11 months. June 2nd is your exam, 11 months. So in this 11 months only, for 6 to 7 months, you will be reading for mains along with your coaching. The next 4 or 3 months, you will be reading only for prelims. So this 6 months is the period where you need to improve your mains writing skill. After prelims, we will be having 3 or 4 months time. So we'll wait 1 month for the prelims result. We don't do anything. So 1 month is gone. 2.5 months. In that 2.5 months, we'll look for books, we'll look for test series and all, and we'll think about whether I'll qualify this or not. In that 1 month is gone. We'll be having 1.5 month time. In that, practicing and improving is not possible. You just need to revise and write during that time. This is the time, this 6 months is the time where you need to practice both your GS answers and optionals, GS and optionals. So if you want to take the exam seriously for the next year, write exams now, from now. In writing this, we have many doubts. In mains answer writing, it is not as simple as answering the prelims questions. In the prelims exam, what is the challenge? You need to know the information. You should be able to apply that information to the given question. So if that is the case, we can answer that. What is required for mains answers? First, we should read. Second, we need to analyze, because the questions are not direct questions. We need to analyze the things. Then, we need to understand the scope of the question. We need to write the content that we have concisely, because our answers are of 150 to 200 words, not more than that. But we will be reading some 4 or 5 books per one single concept. We will be reading one entire note. So, how to concise it? Or sometimes we will be having only 2 words for entire question. So, how to expand that into a particular answer? These are all challenges. How to start the answer is the question for every one of us. How to write introduction. Some of the students have written answers and they wrote introduction, heading, then write, then body, then write, conclusion, heading, then write the answer. See, that happens with everyone when we start writing answers. We should not use those headings. In main answer, in the main body part, we should use headings, but not these ones. Introduction, conclusion. Your answer should say that this is introduction. Your answer should convey this is conclusion. You should not keep the headings. That is one thing. Then, how to start the answer, whether to write introduction, or some comments say whether how to start this answer. Shall we write quote, or shall we write definition? What should we write is the question. See, these are genuine questions. If we are starting at the first stage, these are genuine questions. First, let us see some of the questions and let us analyze how to write an answer. But one thing is, start writing answers for static questions first. The questions that we are going to discuss are previous questions. So, they are not static questions. 99% of the cases, UPSC questions are not static and direct, especially in case of polity. They are not static questions. But if you start writing, if you start your writing practice with analytical questions, you will never be satisfied, even if you write 3 or 4 times the same answer. So, start writing static questions like, what are the functions of election commission, kind of questions, because some of the students genuinely have the problems like constructing a sentence, constructing a paragraph. So these are genuine concerns. How to write a single paragraph, how to concise the answer into 150 words. So start taking static questions and write answers. For every question, before writing mains answer, for every question we should make a framework. First you practice this for this practice questions in the final exam, you need not do this. Automatically it comes to your mind. In your mind, you should make this structure and write the answer directly. Here, in practice questions, you should make this structure. First, we should identify keywords. Keywords are important words in the given question. Keyword. One core issue will be there in every question. So that we should identify. In the introduction, then comes introduction. Behind every question, prelims or mains, every question, there will be one idea or there will be some issue that is going on in the news or somewhere. So based on that only they prepare the question paper. So you should know in which context that question is asked. When you know that context, your introduction should start with that. Your introduction varies when you know the context of the question, why they have asked that question. If you don't know, you start with definition. So introduction is that one. So we should plan, okay, what theme should I write in the introduction? Then comes our main points that we write in our body. There we need to write some 5 or 6 points. We should always have 5 or 6 points or arguments. See, not all questions can be presented in point form or paragraph form. It depends on the type of question. Sometimes we need to present in only paragraph format, like comment. If the question is asked with comment, analyze. Such questions can be answered only in paragraph format. Or some questions asked about discuss or explain. In such questions we can write both paragraphs and points. So we should decide, based on the question, we should decide which points we should write. 1, 2, 3, like that, 4, 5 points, just words. Like democratic decentralization, I want to write one paragraph on that regarding that question. Just write that word. So 4, 5 words. Then in polity, governance, economy, in all these subjects, if you have read our previous questions, most of the questions are related to current issues. Most of the questions. So we should take support of some indices or reports or committees, commissions, etc. In governance, we use ARC reports. In polity, we use law commission report or that report. There are many reports. So we should be able to use some index or report in our answer. So write that also. Report or index. So what I am going to use. So you should have an idea for that. Then comes our conclusion. Conclusion should not be the repetition of our content of the body. See, we have this structure, but all answers do not fit into this structure. Some answers don't have any conclusion. For example, let's say some geography question. What are the impacts of monsoon on Indian agriculture? Some question. So for such questions, conclusions won't be there. Or discuss the important features of 1935 Act. There you can produce a conclusion by concising or by writing this body concisely over here. But it is not a rule that you should write conclusion for each and every question. It's not a rule. But in most of the cases, 90% of the cases will have conclusion. If we write conclusion, that too constructive conclusion, will be getting good marks. So this should be our framework. So for every question that we are going to solve now, we'll fit them into this particular structure. So this you should practice when you practice your model answers. So we'll be giving you all these questions only. Whatever we discuss now in the class, we'll give you as assignments. Whoever are interested, you write and upload it in the website. Right? First question. Simultaneous elections to the Lok Sabha and State assemblies will limit the amount of time and money spent in electioneering, but it will reduce the government's accountability to the people. Discuss. So what is the keyword here? So this structure we cannot make in our examination hall. So what will we do? We'll just underline this. Simultaneous election. One word. That is our keyword. Then what will we write in the introduction? What is a simultaneous election? What is the simultaneous election for Lok Sabha and State assemblies? What is it? That we write. What is it? Why government wants to go for this simultaneous election? That we'll be writing in this particular part. But here we'll write what is the simultaneous election? Is it there in our constitution or not? In polity, for most of the questions, we can start our introduction with the constitutional aspect, whether that particular issue is discussed in our constitution or not, or are there any debates surrounding it in our constitution assembly. See, if you must have observed in our newspaper articles also, whenever any issue related to polity comes, they write based on the constitutional assembly debates. So we should know first what is this constitution assembly, what they did, etc. That you will be reading when you read historical background of constitution. But that kind of answer you can start. Constitutional assembly discussed the simultaneous election, full stop. What is the simultaneous election? You write. That will be our introduction. Then here two arguments are there. Yes or no? Yes. What is the first argument? First argument says, it limits the amount of time and money spent. So it is discussing about advantages or pros of simultaneous election. But in the statement itself, it is saying, but it will reduce the government's accountability to the people. Disadvantages or loopholes or the practical problems with regard to simultaneous elections we will be writing in the second part. In the first part, what we write, what are the advantages of simultaneous elections? First is better governance. For every argument, you need to give examples. For every argument, better governance. Better governance will be our heading. See, writing paragraph is easy, but if you can write in form of this headings, you will be getting good marks. Why? For 20 questions in our GS papers, examiner will be given 7 to 8 minutes to correct, or at most 10 minutes. So in 10 minutes, 20 questions means what is the time for each question? Half a minute. So in half a minute, can the person read the entire answer? No, we should show that these are the main points that are present in our answer. How do we show that? By underlining, by using headings. In this question, we have the opportunity to use the headings. So use this. 1. The advantages that are discussed are, then you write 1. 1. Better governance. You write what is the reason for that. Why are we saying better governance? So what is the problem? What is the problem that is going to be addressed by the simultaneous election? Constant campaigning, because of which first is model code of conduct will be imposed on the scheduled date of every election. Because of that, what happens? The governance schemes, the governance getting stalled in many of the areas where elections are there. So because of that, there are many problems. If we write that, let's write that. Then comes, what are the other advantages? The money spent on electioneering. So to substantiate this, we should use ADR's report, Association of Democratic Reforms. It's one civil society or NGO. It has a report. It is authenticate report. It has a report in which it mentions, or why to go that even in 2017, in the year 2017, Election Commission of India itself have given a report on election reforms. 2017 January, it has given a report on election reforms. If you can go through that, not the entire report, the important points of that, you will get some facts. What is the amount that we are spending on average for the 5 years? So you just quote that. Election Commission of India mentioned this. Or Niti Aayog suggested this simultaneous elections, right? Niti Aayog only suggested. Why did it suggest? If you go to our PIB website, if you go to the article in which PIB, this news is mentioned, PIB suggested this simultaneous elections, there they mention all these points with facts. So whenever we use facts in polity answers, we get good marks. That's why if you observe, So your seniors are so. In polity, most of them get very less marks. Very less marks because it needs facts. Factual information. To substantiate every argument, you need factual data. So likewise, we write advantages 1, 2, 3, 4 like then. Then we change the paragraph. However, what is important in a democracy? Democratic accountability. Accountability of representatives to the people is very important. So if we have simultaneous elections, there are problems, right? One, democratic accountability gets weakened because our elected leaders only visit when there are elections. That's a negative statement to say, but it's a true statement. Likewise, we write, federalism gets affected due to the simultaneous elections. The political agenda of the center impacts the political agenda at the state level. It's a contravention to our federalism principle. So that we write here. Voting behavior, yes. In that only voting behavior comes. Voting behavior will be tilted towards center's larger agenda. Or sometimes if there are any regional tendencies in the area, state's agenda overrides the center's agenda, national agenda. That is one negative thing that we write. What do we write in the conclusion? We should write only 150 to 170 words. If they ask 200 words, maximum, we can write 180 words because we'll be having 7 minutes to write this answer. 1 minute to construct this structure, 6 or 7 minutes to write the answer. In 6 or 7 minutes, if you write more than 200, you'll be losing some other question. We cannot attempt all the questions. So we should concise the answer. Then what do we write in the conclusion? Conclusion should be kind of prescription. You should write, we have written these are the problems. So what stand are we taking is the conclusion. What do you think about simultaneous elections? That we need to write. Our opinion can be based on some report. See, we are not experts who analyze the constitutional aspects and all. See, here also constitutional aspects are involved. For example, if we want to conduct simultaneous elections, in some states this year they have elected their chief ministers and legislative assembly. If we want to go for simultaneous election next year, along with the Lok Sabha elections, these states, will they agree? No. Feasibility is not there. Practical feasibility is not there. For example, let's say President's rule is imposed in some states. What about that case? These we'll discuss. President's rule, what is President rule, what are the conditions, etc. But there are practical problems. You can write a complete answer only when you read entire syllabus once. In mains questions, it's not one topic, one question. You should be able to connect all the topics of the particular syllabus. Yes? So, for now you try and write whatever you know from the limited reading that we have done in our classroom. But later when you finish the entire syllabus of polity, then you try to attempt the questions again, you will get new perspectives. In conclusion, what do we write? What can we write for such questions? There is some problem. How to address it? How can we write our opinion in such answers? Some commissions, Niti Ayog only, it said that instead of going simultaneous elections, we can go for 2-term elections. So that is a median path. If you agree with that, you can suggest that. Or if you say democracy and federalism should be upheld, then we should not go for simultaneous elections. That can be one stand. Or you can say that governance is the end, right? People need good governance. Election is a process. It's a means to give good governance to the people. So instead of focusing on the means, let's focus on the end. That is also one type of conclusion. Depending on your opinion on the issue, you write your conclusion. Here we have discussed the 3 conclusions. Some may come up with some other conclusion. Likewise, you write your own conclusion, but you should be objective in writing that. You should not be emotional that our party has suggested that this, that's why we want this kind of stuff, don't write. And don't hesitate to write party names. For example, here, better governance, somewhere around here, you want to write, or in some other question, here it's not possible, in some other question, this government has done this. There you need not mention name of the person. Indira Gandhi emergency, you need not mention. The government at the time imposed emergency, you can mention. For example, you want to praise this government. You need not mention about Narendra Modi and praise that particular program. You mention about government. It's not a person who is running the country. It's the entire system. So we should do that. So this question, is it clear? Yes? Next question. To enhance the quality of democracy in India, the Election Commission of India has proposed election reforms. What are the suggested reforms and how far are they significant to make democracy successful? Here, what is the keyword? Electoral reforms is the keyword. Yes, electoral reforms. We write here electoral reforms. What kind of introduction? What are the, see, in some questions we need to address 2-3 questions, 2-3 sub questions. In this particular question, to enhance the quality of democracy in India, Election Commission has proposed electoral reforms. What are the suggested reforms? One sub question. How far are they significant to make democracy successful? Second question. See, when we have sub questions, in some questions we need to write them separately. For example, if the question is, what is climate? How do we define climate? What are the factors influencing climate? Then you write that separately, this separately. In this question, there are 2 ways of answering this question. One, you write what are the suggested reforms, 1, 2, 3, likewise 8 reforms are there. You write all those 8 names and then you write, you analyze. In the second part, you analyze how are they significant to make the democracy successful. That is one strategy. Second strategy is you write one reform, like electoral funding is one of the measures suggested by Election Commission. So you write electoral funding, under that only you write how can it improve, how is it significant to democracy, that we can write. So these are 2 ways. That's why in mains answers everyone write different answers, but form is same. Form is this one, introduction, body and conclusion. Form is same. Content also varies. Content varies based on the facts and arguments that you put forward. So, two-part question. What shall we write in the introduction? What is a election reform? That becomes a definition that we can write as a beginner, but the good way of starting it is, what are the problems in the present electoral system? Can we write that in 2 statements, 2 or 3 statements in the introduction? See, if one constitutional authority is suggesting some reforms means there are some problems. So first we should be able to write that. See, these are the problems. The identity politics, criminalization of politics. Likewise, some problems are there in the electoral system. We'll write them. These are the problems in the present electoral system. To address this, Election Commission of India has suggested following measures. That is the beginning of our body. Then we write some 6 or 7 important points. It has given a 170-page report. We should pick the important ones and write. Then write how is it significant to make democracy successful. Let's say constitutional reforms is one of the reforms suggested by Election Commission of India. See, for this question, what is the background? This was asked in the mains, 2017 means October. Even the simultaneous elections question asked in the year 2017. These 2 questions, these 2 issues were in the news that time. Because for this, Election Commission of India has given report in January 2017. That report was repeatedly discussed in media till the exam. Now also we discuss this, right? So that's one thing. For simultaneous election, Niti Aayog has suggested to go for simultaneous elections. These are the contexts in which we should understand. So, constitutional reform is one of the reforms suggested by Election Commission of India. That year what happened is, only constitutional reforms were focused in media. Constitutional reforms like, in Election Commission of India, it's a multi-member body. We have Chief Election Commissioner and 2 election commissioners. In that they have suggested these election commissioners should also be given equal powers like the Chief Election Commissioner, because these election commissioners can be removed on the advice of Chief Election Commissioner. The General Election Commissioners, they can be removed. They need not go through the entire process like Supreme Court judge. So they want constitutional protection. That is one constitutional reform. And they want independent office, independent budget. Because if the budget is tied up with the government, Parliament has to pass budget every year. In that, this election commission is given some budgetary allocation. If it, let's say, see, this is a technical term, grant. Grant means the request. Election Commission of India, its office, it prepares that we need some 1300 crores for this year. Then Parliament takes these grants from all the ministries and all the constitutional bodies like this. Then it puts it for vote. But some grants are not votable. Like Supreme Court of India, its expenditure, its grant is not votable. It just presents. Parliament did not vote on it. It can discuss, but it did not vote. It need not vote on it. So likewise, Election Commission of India also want that chargeable grants, so that it can function more independently. So likewise, there are 3-4 constitutional reforms that it asked for. Most of us students who wrote mains that year, they focused only on these 3. These are one point of the reform suggested by Election Commission of India. There are many other things like media reforms, like reforms in the political party funding. After that report only, now we have electoral bonds and all. So we should be focused on all these aspects. Even if we write 3-4 points on each of the aspects, we should focus on all these things. I'll show you how the report is. See, this was the report. 109 pages. I said 170, sorry. Proposed electoral reforms. So in that, you need not go through the entire report. You just go through the table of content. One is amendment to the Constitution of India. Most of our students focused on this because it was in news. They asked, how can Election Commission of India ask for independent budget? How can it be accountable if it is given independence? So these are the arguments that were in the media. So we should not go with only these 3 arguments. It's one chapter. Then we have electoral roll matters. Then we have election management issues. Then we have nomination of candidates. In this only we have, the Election Commission has suggested that a person can contest only from one constituency, not more than one. Likewise, then decriminalization of politics, reforms relating to political parties, election campaign and advertisement, election expenses and petitions. All these are issues. At least we should write some 3 or 4, right? If we write only the Constitution of India amendments, those who prepare these questions, they must be knowing all these aspects. Question papers are not prepared by general people. They are experts in that particular area. So they should have in mind all these aspects. When they give the model answer, those who prepare question paper, they give the model answer also. So the evaluators, how do they correct? How do they evaluate? Based on the model answer given by the UPSC. So they look for all these things. If we write only this, which is in news repeatedly, what happens? We'll be getting, out of 12, we'll be getting 1 or 2 marks. That's why in Polity we get less marks, because this is the reason. So whenever you have reports, don't read all these things. If you write only this thing, you can write 200 words. Only the headings. You just remember that, like that. So whenever there are important reports like this, try to go through the content of table of contents. So you'll get to know what are the dimensions. You can connect it with your syllabus and write the answers comprehensively. Yes. Most of our students did this. So, introduction electoral reform, keyword electoral reform, introduction is our problems. See, if I am a student, I will write like that. If I am a student, I will write the problems in the present system, then I will write suggested reforms, then how can that is significant for democratic success. See, what is basic structure of the constitution? What is that concept? Basic structure of the constitution. That we'll be discussing as a separate topic. That is very big concept. Keshwananda Bharati case is there. We'll discuss that. That is nothing but there are some basic features which should not be failed on. So one is this democracy. Under democracy, free and fair elections. Very significant aspect. Free and fair elections should be there. So all these reforms, they promote free and fair elections. They promote right to equality. Because money power, if it is not curbed in the elections, who will get elected? The people with money power, muscle power, or some kind of political background, they will only get elected. So where is right to equality there? So all these aspects we need to discuss in the second part of our answer. How these proposed electoral reforms promotes the democracy. Even the media, exit polls, opinion polls, all these things are there. They influence the voting behavior. So it's an unfair election. So that should be curbed. Likewise, we substantiate all these reforms with this. In the conclusion, how can we conclude this particular question? How can we conclude this particular question? Some say all these should be implemented in letter and spirit, some kind of thing. Some say even after implementing all these things, the reform should start from the grassroots level, from the political will, because politics influence government power. Politics influence the structure of the election. Even if the politics or if the legislators want, they can restructure the election commission itself, election commission composition or its independence through constitutional amendment, something like that. But judiciary is there. So political system, the reform should start within political system. Whatever measures we take outside of it, without reforming the core of political system, they are of very less use. That is one kind of conclusion, some may say. Some say, yes, such election reforms are the urgent need of the hour for saving our democracy kind of conclusions. There are different kind of conclusions. It depends on how you build your main body of the answer. And what opinion did you form on that particular question? Based on that, we write our conclusion. But such questions, they require our conclusion. They require our opinion. Our opinion doesn't mean just something out of air. It is based on some informed debates by watching some debates like RSTV debates or something like that. Informed debates. By that you form your own opinion on all these major issues. Write your conclusion. Yes. So there are some model questions that we can discuss here. Did sir discuss this topic? Right to recall? Yes, then good. Right to recall can strengthen democratic accountability of elected representatives. That is a statement. However, in a country like India, it is not feasible at this central or state level. Explain. So, how many dimensions do we have here? How many dimensions do we have here? Or how many sub-questions do we need to answer here? 2. Read the question carefully. How many sub-questions that we need to answer here? 2, 3, 4, 1 or no? See, this first statement, this is a statement. The question is not asking us to explain that statement. It has just given one statement, and this is the real question that we need to understand and address. However, in a country like India, it is not feasible at the central or state level. Explain. Explain. First, what is the keyword here? Right to recall is the keyword. Yes. How do we start our introduction? What is right to recall? What is right to recall? See, this question we have asked in our mains test series, January mains test series. 99% of the students, they have written, they have started with the definition of right to recall. But what is it in the first case? It's an instrument of direct democracy, isn't it? It's an instrument of direct democracy. Ours is a representative democracy. First we should know that point, write that point and start whatever you want to write on right to recall. In right to recall, you can recall the elected representatives, something you write in the introduction. In the body, you write why is it not feasible at the central or state level. Why the question specifically mentioned at the central and state level? Why didn't it mention in general it is not feasible in India? Yes, we have local governments also. Ours is a 3-tier government, isn't it? After 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts, we have 3-tier governments. So why didn't we mention that local governments also? Is there in some states like Madhya Pradesh, they are implementing this right to recall. Even Haryana proposed right to recall at the local level. At the local level it is possible. Why? We have Gram Sabha. See, when we read on these local governments, you will get to know all these details. But at the local level, we have some direct democratic structures like Gram Sabha. So we can go for these instruments. But at the central and state level, why is it not feasible? Because there are many representatives. So, large population is there, yes. It will lead to instability of the government, yes. That entire thing is one single point only. After that, what will you write? The entire answer. See, whenever such kind of questions are asked, you need to identify the core ideology of the question. Our democracy is, our society is what? See, polity is extension of our society. Society, based on that, polity is built. So what is this society? What is Indian society? It's a diverse society where language, religion, caste, all these things play a very important role in our social life as well as political life. Let's say in one particular region, one SC member got elected. So is there a possibility that other members can come together and recall that particular person? Yes. Then what happens if it goes on like that? Yes. Ours is a diverse country and we have competitive politics. Competitive politics, coalition politics. These are 3 words. These 3 are philosophies behind this particular question. So whatever you are saying, it leads to instability, etc. These are effects. But what leads to that? What is the underlying phenomena or underlying ideology behind it? That we need to understand. That is our diversity. Diversity in terms of different things, caste, religion, which play a very important role in our polity. Then we have competitive politics. Competitive politics, regional, especially the regional politics. Regional politics. Some states, they were allies before. Now, they came out of the support. They can impeach with other states, with the elected representatives of other states. Likewise, we have regionalism as a concept, competitive politics as a concept. Likewise, because of all these things, we cannot go for right to recall at a larger level, at the central or state levels. But at the local level, in many of the states, they are trying to implement it. So that can be our conclusion. In body, we need to write only about this. Because of these things, it leads to instability. It in fact is a threat to democracy, because democracy, yes, it wants people's representatives, but ultimately it wants to serve for the people. Whenever there is stability, then only good governance is possible. So we need to write it ultimately threatening the democratic ethos itself. Likewise, we write, and in the conclusion, however, it can be implemented at the local level, but it is not feasible at the central or state level based on our political structures. That can be one conclusion. Some can say, you can argue in the entire answer, you can argue it's not feasible, but you can, some write that it should be made possible through discussions, debates, dialogues, etc. kind of thing. But I feel you write what is practically possible in the conclusion. That is also good. Right to recall should be there because it leads to accountability of the representatives, etc. But it's not practically possible. So that only you write in the conclusion. Don't write some fancy things. If you want to get good marks, write what is practical. Okay, next question. Election Commission has failed to curb the role of invisible money in polls. This is direct statement of our finance minister. He has given this direct statement. Election Commission has failed to curb the role of invisible money. What is invisible money? Black money, unaccountable money, yes. So, here, comment. The question is asking comment. The previous 3 questions, in that we discussed, the word is discuss. Discuss about the question or given statement. Here, comment. Comment means what do you think? What do you think on that particular aspect? So, in the previous questions, in the last 3 questions, we discussed and we wrote our opinion only in the conclusion part. Here, first only at the start itself, we are taking a stand and substantiating our stand. So, two points are there here. One, you can say, yes, the Election Commission has failed to curb the role of invisible money. 2, you can say, no, it is trying, but political will is not there. What can it do? What can it do? Something kind of second argument is there. But for every argument, you should have some substantiating points. So what can we write for this? What is your argument? Yes. Yes, it has failed. Why? You need to tell me 4 or 5 points. Why yes? Because electoral bonds is... we need to write the problems in the invisible money in polls. Election Commissioner's power is limited in deregistering the parties. Why to deregister the parties? See, the core of the issue is this invisible money. You need to tell me the points that are related to invisible money, polls and Election Commission. These 3 should be there in our argument. It's not just political party and Election Commission. We should not assume that every political party or every candidate is corrupt and using invisible money. If you are saying that, show me the evidence. Yes. Okay. Third party expenditures are not accounted. So what about, I'm asking about invisible money. You are at the second step. One is, yes, it is generating invisible money because of which they are not auditing. So you are just saying the auditing is not done. Before that, they are generating black money is the point. Decriminalization is not happening because of which the illegal money is entering into the elections. Corporate funds are encouraged. State funding is not provided. What are all these things? Who should do all those things? Election Commission or the government? or the legislature? Who should do that? If finance ministry is saying election commission is failing, finance commission the next day itself it asked, what powers have you given us to do all these things? Isn't it? So you can take the direct statement of the election commission and argue from that perspective. You can directly say what powers are given to curb the invisible money. See, from starting, let's take 1990s. From that, election commission has taken many steps to curb invisible money. It is successful in curbing the muscle power in the election, not the money power. This voter ID cards with photo is the recent one. The VVPTs, even the EVMs, these are recent ones. Earlier rigging etc. was very frequent. So to reduce all those things, these were taken. But let's say the state government is distributing mixies and TVs to the voters. Amma, Nana, something kind of. So who should curb that? Election commission only, true. But Supreme Court said it is not illegal. Yes, Supreme Court in its judgment, the PIL was filed in the Supreme Court. In that, Supreme Court said it is not illegal to do. It's a welfare thing, kind of. Yes. It's a kind of welfare. That was the judgment. So, in one perspective, you write that there is huge money involved in campaigning. They are not showing the accounts. Even RTI, CIC in 2013, Chief Information Commission, it said that political parties comes under public authority. So, under RTI, they also come. So, anyone can file RTA and take their expenditures. But no political party came forward and made a law. So, what is the core on all these issues? It's political will, not just the election commission's failure. So, even if you substantiate your answer with the arguments that yes, election commission has failed, at least in the conclusion you mention that it's not just the election commission. The powers need to be given to election commission. The recent report that we have just seen that mentioned we need powers. We need powers to cover all these things. So who should give the power? It's the parliament. It's the parliament or the legislature. So legislature should play a proactive role. For that, political will should be there. That kind of conclusion is given for this. Yes. Or if you want to say, yes, no, it did not fail, it is in fact successful. If you want to show that, then you write, election commission has taken all these measures, voter identity cards, all the successful measures you write and conclude that, but however, it still need to be improved kind of conclusion. If you write positives, you write the critic of the conclusion, or if you write negative thing, you write the positive aspect. Yes, that is one strategy. You build your own strategy. Next, is voting in elections shall be made compulsory? This is as good as asking, voting in elections shall be made compulsory, comment. Same thing, if you remove is, the question comes as comment. So whenever you see comment questions, you should restructure that as this. Question mark. So now tell me, how do we start our answer? What is the keyword here? Compulsory voting. Compulsory voting is the keyword here. What introduction can we write here? Now what is the method that we are following? Is voting mandatory in India? Under our constitution, it is a voluntary and uniform right given to all the citizens who are above the age of 18. That we write in the body. We have 2 points. Is voting in election shall be made compulsory? Yes. If you say yes, why? If you say no, why? If you say both, write arguments for both and substantiate both. If we say, let's say yes, voting in election shall be made compulsory. Why? Legitimate representative. See, there is this concept that everyone tells us that you should write the complete sentences. Complete sentences doesn't mean the grammatical sentences. It means whatever point you told, for that we should say representation. In a representative democracy, all people should be participants. Then only representation becomes inclusive. Then only everyone accepts that particular elected representative as the legitimate representative. For example, let's say in one particular area, 50% is the polling. In that 31% one person got, he won. The remaining 69% of the people, do they accept him as the legitimate leader? We have to in the present system. But are we is the question. So for that, what do we need? If 100% of the people vote, then at least some kind of legitimacy or majority can be brought in this system. So here, representation in the democracy, that is the core issue that you have to write as a side heading. So if the examiner reads that particular word or phrase, then it's done. The entire point he will not read. Next, why do we need elections? One is representation. Two, stability. What about stability? Hung parliament or hung assembly is the normal thing now. So after elections, parties are coming together and forming the governments. But what if everyone votes? Then in most probable cases, we don't have any hung assemblies. Because of less voting percentage only, hung assemblies are common. That was the argument given by some people. You can criticize that particular argument also. But for now, let's keep it in the yes argument. Stability. Stable governments. Then what is core of democracy? What is core of participation? What about participation? Participation of all people should be there. So they should have the feeling of being part of the government, being part of the representative system. For that, they should be accountable and they should vote in the elections. So participation, that is one core point. Participation. Then politicization of the masses, good. Politicization of masses means political education to the masses. Okay. Politicization of, so what happens with that? See, that is one point. You need to tell me the extension. That becomes a complete point, complete statement. Accountable mechanisms will develop. Debates will develop. Yes, so that is one point. What about negatives? No, voting should not be made compulsory. So what arguments can we write there? In democracy, choice and voice. Favorite words. Choice and voice. Freedom of expression, all these things. But choice and voice. Choice and voice are center of democracy. So if we are making voting compulsory, what happens? Number of non-serious votes would increase. Theoretically, the meaning of democracy itself may not be there. It gets violated. So it's based on the free will of the people. You cannot force the people in a democracy. That is one point. Next, why not they made compulsory? See, non-serious voting, which leads to again instability. Non-serious voting. Then how do we conclude such answers? Yes, conclusion is nota. This is the same question that went to Supreme Court of India. In that case, it says citizens should have their choice. And it has given choice of nota also. If they don't want to vote for any candidate, they can choose nota. But is that system effective? No. Why? Nota votes are not counted. they are not reduced from the votes polled for that particular candidate. For example, a candidate, he got some 1 lakh votes. B candidate, he got some 2 lakh. But under Nota, they got some 3 lakhs Nota votes. But B is the winner, not Nota. They won't conduct any by-elections. They won't conduct re-elections. But they choose only B as the winner. So, what should be done now? This Nota system should be made effective. It should be reformed. That can be our conclusion. So what can be your conclusion? What can you write? It depends upon the strength of your arguments. For example, if you say all positives, all yes regarding voting in election shall be made compulsory, then you can write the merit of the argument in the conclusion. Or if you say no, if you are a pure Democrat, then you can say no, we should not make it compulsory under any cases. I would say, so why people are not voting? That is the core issue that we need to identify. Under no, I will say, why people are not voting? There is there is no faith in the system. There are many problems, dynastic politics. Under this competitive politics, divisive politics are played. All these things are problems. So to increase the voting percentage, what should be done? All these issues should be addressed, not to make the voting compulsory. So my conclusion would be that we need to address the root of the problem, not to make the voting compulsory. Even if you make voting compulsory, people will come and they vote non-seriously. So debate, awareness generation and addressing the electoral malpractices, these should be done not just to make voting compulsory. Yes, such kind of conclusions you can give. Thank you.